Morning, Bob.
Also reads the person to a very high level. You know that the outer two planets were discovered because people noticed anomalies in the movements of the inner planets. So there are things that so they knew that years before they could actually demonstrate, so they had physical evidence of the existence of the planets. They were able to interpolate. They knew that the outer planets were there because of the irregularities and the inner planets. And interestingly enough, by the way, I think I mentioned yesterday the Gesher Chaim of Yechiel Michal Tukachinsky, one of our greats of the last generation. So when he wrote his book, we have Birkas Achama. It'll take 17 years till we can make a bracha on the new sun cycle. So when he wrote a book, he wrote a little book about the sun cycle, and it was before the outer planets were discovered. So he said, he says soon they're going to discover more planets. Listen to this. He says there's going to be more planets, and they're going to ask Akasha, how come the Gemara speaks about only 7? So he says the answer is because they're so far that they have no effect on us. Now, the outer planets, each one alone is equidistant to the distance of the farthest planet from the sun than all the other planets. Yes, they're super far away. So he said he predicted that they were going to get it, and he already said, they're going to ask the Kasha, but they're too far away. He knew that already before they ever discovered it. It was incredible. And these things they're things that people know with wisdom, both by Torah wisdom and by general observation. I was years ago, there's a friend of mine. I was a mentor for him. He was about 15 years older than me. So when I was like 20, he was like 30, 35. So he was also a tremendous Talmid Chacham, and I always looked up to him. His name was Moshe Meir. His father learned in the Chachmei Lublin, by Rabbi Shapiro, who instituted the Daf Yomi. So one time, back in the old days, everybody used to get Time and Newsweek. There were 2 magazines. They were pretty much they covered the same stuff, but every week there were 2 different things, 2 weeklies. So one week in both of them, there was an article where doctors explained against modern wisdom that a certain operation, that the structure of that the approach for a man is different than the approach for a woman in the brain operation. So incredible. So I happened to meet this Moshe Meir in a certain base medrash, and for whatever reason I discussed it, and he jumped up. He was so excited, and he ran. I was in a base medrash with a tremendous amount of time. He ran to a massive wall of books, and he pulled out a sefer from what was then over 100 years old. And in the sefer, he points with excitement, and and the rabbi wrote the sefer he said, I was clear to me that the approach to a certain brain operation for man and woman is different. He says, and I showed it to Chachmei Arofim, I showed it to the wisest of the doctors. But Hoduli, he says, and they admitted that what I said was true. And he said, but I didn't learn it from medicine. I learned it from the Hishtalshelus, from studying the way that the rabbis teach us that the world came into being, how it was generated. I was able to understand the difference between approach to, in this case, of a male operation for a man and a woman. Incredible. So wisdom comes from this revelation, like I saw. He made the Torah. There's also observation. The Ralbag, I told you, I'm really shocked that the Ralbag was not excommunicated. It was a holy great rabbi. That was understand me. But if people read him, he was so incredibly modern in the sense of understanding. He understood the wisdom and science. It was incredible. It really an incredible approach. So he said, it said about Shlomo Melech that Shlomo Melech could speak the language of the animals. Shlomo Melech could speak the language. So he said what it is. He said because here you don't have to hear an animal speak and enunciate words. To speak the language of the animals. The animal, by its nature, teaches you and tells you things. So he says that Shlomo Melech understood every aspect of creation, every creature, and he knew. I forgot that they used to have in the Greek the phylus. He knew all of the categorization down to the minute detail where every creature on earth fell in the hierarchy of all living things. So he spoke the language of each animal. He understood the nature of each animal as it was created. He understood, what it was, what its nature was, what he learned from it, etc. In any case, today we're going to see the incredible wisdom of Shlomo Melech, and with an exciting story, and also despite that, and despite the greatest wisdom and the holiness of Shlomo Melech, the vulnerability of every person, and that's what a person. We always admit, no matter how great a person is, they always remain vulnerable. So let's take a look. So we learned the pasuk says, "Where I am." Okay, let's just tell where we are. We got up yesterday. We got the end of the story yesterday. So we are here. What's I'm looking here? Here it's on Samaches Amud Aleph 69a 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 lines from the top, the last word. 17 lines from the top, the last word. That's what we got up to yesterday. 17 lines from the top on 69a Samaches Aleph Asisili. So this is the pasuk from Kal Asisili Sarim Besaros. I made for me Sarim Besaros. It sounds like male music and female music, but it really is different kind of instruments. Tanugim b'nei Adam, Tanugim b'nei Adam. We'll see the pleasures.
I think the female musics are the ones with the bass keyboard.
It's going to explain it. It's going to explain it right now. But the Gemara is going to explain it. But Tanugim b'nei Adam and the pleasures of people. Okay, and what shida v'shidos and different types of, again, shida v'shidos could be boxes, but the Gemara interprets it differently. Sarim b'sarif. What does it mean that he made what? Sarim b'sarif, that he made singers, those were different types of instruments. But Tanugas b'nei Adam ele brechos. When it says the pleasures of man, these are cold pools of water, or mechatzos, and hot baths for the wintertime. Shida v'shida. What is a shida v'shida? Instead of translating different types of chests or boxes, here in Bible they translated Shida v'shidasin. It means what? Male demons and female demons. The Marava in Eretz Yisrael in the West Armor they said the Shida. Okay. What it means when it says the Shidasa, it means it's really referring to different types of carriages. Okay, that noble people ride it. Rabbi Yochanan said, he said the city called Shechem, which had a lot of ditches. He says there were 300 types of demons. And he either said, I don't know, I never really saw a demon, I don't know what it looks like, or he said, Shidasa, the queen of the demons, I don't know who she is. I want to just tell you one thing. We all know, I mentioned yesterday that already, just like I told you, that years before doctors understood that there were microscopic things that could affect a person, and they were killing people. Doctors were coming in to help women give birth, and they killed them. They came in off the street with filthy hands, and they helped women give birth, and they infected them and killed them. Only later, after Lister came, and they understood that they were germs and they could kill you. So years ago, if you would have come to a doctor and said to him, a doctor, you would have said, listen, there are little things that you can't see that can kill you or help you.
They would laugh.
They would laugh. You'd say, you're crazy. But we always knew that. And also these things, what we call spirits and different things, there are things that are sensitivities. There are things in the air and things. There are many things. If you look at your skin with a microscope, you're crawling with horrible things. If you look at them, you lose your mind. Well, when you look at them, is it? But so the answer is there's a whole universe that we don't see. The rabbis always knew about. Amar Mar. So okay, okay. So here we said it really means what male and female demons. The only thing is like this: how can he mention that he got for himself male and female demons? What did he get him for? What did he need him for? So we're going to learn over here exactly. We're going to learn at least one case where he needed the help of a demon, of the king of the demons, as we'll see. To see about also the temple when it's going to be built, every shlema, shlema masa nivna. It has to be built with whole stones. And the end of the pasuk, I'm going to read to you, the end of the pasuk, makavos v'agars and hammers and chisels, kol kli barzel, any type of metal utensil, lo nishma b'hivanoso. It wasn't heard when the temple was built. So therefore, we got a problem. If you have to, the temple, obviously the stones have to be cut. So how can you cut stones without any metal? Okay, so Amar Luhu, so Shlomo Melech said the Rabban, he said to the rabbi, say Chabit, how am I going to do it? How am I going to fit the stones in the base of Mikdash, particularly for the altar, which is really where the Issa was, with the altar, without any metal? And later they said to Bika Shamira, there's a creature called the Shamir, the icy Moshe Abnefa that Moshe used. We had the same problem in the stones in the breastplate. They had to be untouched. They had to be, you couldn't engrave them with metal. Yet they had the names of the tribes written on them. So how did Moshe do it? So Moshe used the shamir, this creature a creature that could cut the stone. Okay, so he said to them, okay, well, where is it? How do I find it? I'm related. The rabbi said to him, I see Shedison. You have to bring a male and female demons together, Kavshina Dadi, and put them in a hard pressed place. You understand? Put and oppress them. Maybe by you oppress them, you'll incarcerate them, and oppress them. Maybe they'll know, and they'll let you know where the shamir is found. I see Shidduch. So he took a male and female demon, Tavshina Dadi, and he pressed them together. And they said, They said, we don't know. But maybe Ashmadai, who's the king of all the demons, maybe he knows. Amalahu. So Shlomo said to them, they said, where is Ashmadai? Where do I find him? They said to him, I see Batur Palan. He's found in such and such a mountain. And over there in that place, what happens over there? The king of the demons, he digs himself a hole, a pit, and he puts water in it. And then he covers it over with stone, and he puts his signet, he puts his stamp into it so he sees that it's not adulterated. It's not been tampered. We call Yom and every day he goes up and learns in the yeshiva up in the heavens. And he comes down to earth, then he learns in the yeshiva down here on earth. Then he comes and he examines the seal, he sees that it hasn't been adulterated. Then he opens up the pit, and then he drinks the water, and then he covers it up again and seals it again, and he goes away. That's what he does every day. So Shlomo Melech sent Benayahu, was the head of the Sanhedrin, the head of the army. He sent him, to go and capture the king of the demons. And he gave him a chain that had Hashem's name on the chain. He's caused the Chokel Hashem, and he gave him a ring that had the name of Hashem on the ring. He gave him also balls of wool, the chamer, and he gave him skins full of wine. Also, Karl so what happened? But Aaron went and he understood from so prepared. And what he did was he dug a pit below the pit that Ashmadai had dug. The Shapina Lamaya, and he dug a little canal between the two holes. So now the lower hole, because it was lower in gravity, was Shapina Lamaya. He was able to draw off all the water from the upper hole, from Ashmadai's hole down to his hole. Then he went back and he plugged up the hole between the two with the balls of wool that Shlomo had given him. And then he dug another hole above Ashmadai's hole. Then he poured the wine that he gave him into it. And so the water. So then the wine went into that to Ashmadai's hole. And then he went and he filled up Taminu, and then he filled up both of his holes so they were completely unrecognizable. So Ashmadai came back. All he saw was his original hole, and it hadn't been tampered with. So then Benayahu went and he sat in a tree to see what happens. Kiata, when Ashmadai came back, he examined the seal. He saw it was unadulterated, unbroken, and he opened up the cistern, the bar. He found there was wine in there. He said to me, 1 second, he says, see, it's written, let's say wine makes people mockers, but Homer Shechab, the old wine makes people crazy, the whole shoga about loyechem, and anybody who stumbles in this, he's not going to be wise. Look, see what it's also written, snus, and also licentiousness and wine and fresh wine. It's going to take out a person's heart. He said, not good. I'm not going to drink the wine. So what happened? Now he became thirsty. He couldn't handle himself anymore. In the end, he gave in. He drank the wine. He got drunk and he passed out. He fell asleep. So quickly, what Benayahu came down from the tree and he threw the chains around Ashmadai. And he closed the chain around his head so he couldn't get out. So when Ashmadai woke up, had become a farce. He started jumping around. He wants to get out. Benayahu said to him, he said, slow down, don't jump so much. The name of your master is upon you. Yes, you try and break that chain, you're going to erase Hashem's name. You're not allowed. So then what happened? So he captured him. So as he was bringing him back to Shlomo HaMelech, so Ashmadai was very destructive. Mata Dikla, he ran into a tree. He came to a tree. He rubbed into it. Shadeh, he knocked it down. Mata Lebesa came to a house. Shadeh, he knocked it down. Mata B'nei Kuva Dahi Armalasa, when he came to a very simple house of a certain widow, Nafka, the widow came out and she recognized that he's going to destroy it. And she begged him, don't knock my house down. So he twisted himself around to stop. He held himself back, even though he wanted to destroy the house, but he turned himself around and jerked himself around so he wouldn't destroy the widow's house. Is bar begarma, and in the process he broke one of his own bones. Amar and Ashmedai said, "Hi, see that's what the pasuk says for Lashon Raka Tishabragar. You see that a soft voice will break a bone. She spoke to me nicely, and I ended up breaking a bone because I listened to her." He saw a blind man who was stumbling along the road. He didn't know where to go. He put him back on the right pathway. He saw a drunk man who was also stumbling his way. He didn't know where to go. He put him back on the right pathway. He saw a wedding celebration. Everybody was very happy. He started crying. He saw a wedding. He cried. He heard a certain guy telling the shoemaker, "Make me shoes that'll last for 7 years." He laughed at it. He laughed. He saw a sorcerer doing sorcery, and he laughed at that guy also. Later we'll see what all these stories were. When Benayel finally got to Yerushalayim, they didn't bring him in front of Shlomo for 3 days. So the first day Ashmedai said, "How come the king's not bringing me?" They said, he drank a lot. He's got a hangover. He drank a lot. He drank a lot. Okay. So Ashmedai took a brick and he put one brick on top of the other one. He told Shlomo that when they told Ashmedai that he had a hangover, Ashmedai put one brick on top of the other. Shlomo said, "This is what he's saying to you. What he's saying that you should give me more liquor. When a person has a hangover, you drink a little more whiskey, it gets better." What are they? The Irish have a word for it. I forgot it's called hair of the dog. Hair of the dog. So they told him also, but you see also notice you see that Shlomo can interpret the signs I said or the riddles of Ashmedai. The next day he said to them, "How come the king didn't bring me in front of him?" So they said to him, "Anse Malki said the king is stuck. Why? Because he ate a lot. He ate too much food. He can't get it. He can't see anybody." So then he took one brick. He took the top brick off and put the top brick on the ground. Took it off the bottom brick. They came to Shlomo that his response was to take one brick off the other. He said, "This is what he's telling you by sign language. Withhold food from me. If a person overate, then the remedy is what?
To stop eating.
Is to eat less." The Sok Tlas Yom, at the end of 3 days, Ayal Lakame. And then 3 days, they finally brought Ashmedai in front of Shlomo. Shokol Kanya. So Ashmedai took a cane, okay, and he measured out 4 amas, and he threw the 4 in front of Shlomo. Amarle, he said to Mikadi, Kimaisa who gabra Leslie Badin Alma Eldar Gamide. He said, "Listen," he says, "when a man dies, he meant you." But he said, when a person dies, he meant you. So when a person dies, he only has the 4 cubits of his grave. That's all that man gets. And after all the power a man has, he has his 4 cubits that they bury him in. Hashla Kavisha Koyo, he says, "Now you've conquered the whole world. Lo Savata, the Kavashanami, you're not satisfied, you have to conquer me too. You own everything. What do you want? What do you have to rest me for?" Amar Leisa, Shlomo said to him, "Lo Kabiri Mechli," he says, "I don't want anything from you. But I don't want anything, but I want to build the Beis Hamikdash. I need the Shamir. I need this creature that can cut the stone." I said to him, he says, "It wasn't given over to me. I don't have power really. Sorry, the Hashem gave the power over the Shamir really to what? To the angel that rules the sea, to the force that rules the sea. And the one that rules the sea only will entrust it to what they call it's what we call the duchifas. Tanagoba is the duchifas, the unkosher bird called the duchifas. He only gives it to that bird. The Mehamid Le'ashruas, because that bird, when the bird swears, so when that bird swears that it'll bring it back, he trusts him. That's the only one the creature he'll trust who will swear to bring it back. Knew what is this duchifas? What does he do? What does he do with the shamir? When he gets to a mountain where there's nothing growing, the bird needs to eat. So what does the bird do? What he does is he puts the shamir on the top of the mountain, on the peak, and the shamir splits the top of the mountain. So then this bird, this duchipas goes and it brings back seeds from various trees and it throws it into the crack. And then the trees grow, so the mountain, instead of being barren with no vegetation, it grows trees, and the duchipas can eat the fruits. That's why when we look into the pasuk, when the Torah lists the unkosher bird, the duchipas, what it's written is Nagar Tura, the one who splits the mountain splitter. Why? Because he knows to go and get the shamir to split the mountain.
uncle.
Yeah, we see also. Yeah, yeah, we see also in modern times. You'll see the famous thing. There's abalone is it's a shellfish. It's got like I don't know what it's inside. It's in its shell. It's got a hard shell. So on the Catalina, the island, Catalina Island off of California. It's not the only place, but in Catalina Island. So the birds they swoop down. They pick up this fish in this shell in the shell. They go high and they drop it on the rocks, and then the rocks split the shell, and they come down and eat it. There's the chachma and everything. That's why you have to watch everything. Shlomo watched everything. You have to watch everything in the whole world and gain all the chachma of the world. It's all there. You have to. And all the great Torah people gained everything. They mamash. They knew what they couldn't get by observation. Obviously, they got by Torah, and a lot of things that other people could get by observation over a long time, they're able to get by the Torah with a shortcut. So two things happened. They whatever demanded observation they did, but a lot of things that could be gotten by observation, they got as a shortcut by learning by studying the Torah. It's also very important. Okay, it says Kina de Tanagola. Okay, brought this labine. Okay, now what happened? So Shlomo sent, and he sent out. He found a nest of this duchifas, of this duchifas, and it had babies in it. It was zugisa chibarte, and he covered over. So Benai went and he covered over the nest with clear glass. So now the chivas came back. It could see its babies through the glass, but it couldn't get in. When did they get in? So Azel Aiti Shamir Avasi, so he knew what to do. It has access to the Shamir, went and it got the Shamir, took out a loan of the Shamir, and he put the Shamir on the glass. Okay, Rama Bekala. Okay, so then so then whoever Shlomo sent, he screamed the Shadye, and then the Shamir got shocked and Shadley. So he threw it down, the Shakle, and then the Shliach of Shlomo quickly grabbed the Shamir. The bird got shocked, dropped the Shamir, and the Shliach grabbed it. And the duchivas, the bird was so distraught that it wasn't going to be able to keep its vow. It went and it choked himself to death. In the meantime, okay, now they got back to and we know that's how Shlomo got the Shamir back. Okay, now, but we have to understand one thing. Back to that little flashback to the story. Remember, the Ashmedai on the way when Naya was bringing him to Shlomo Melech, he did some strange things. He put the blind man back on the path. He put the drunk man on the path. He left. He cried at the wedding. Left at this. What's going on? So Benayo said to Ashmedai, "My time who saw me to have you come. Why was it that when you saw that blind man who was stumbling along the way, didn't know where to go? Why'd you put him back on your? Why'd you put your black back on the way? You're usually a destructive force, not a helpful force." Because there was a voice in heaven that announced that Tzaddik Gomor is an absolute Tzaddik. Anyone who helps him get benefits him will merit the world to come. How come when you saw the drunk stumbling along his pathway, how come you put him back on the pathway? Amarle said to him, because the announcement was made about that drunk in heaven, the Rosh Gomor is an absolutely wicked person. And the heavens, what they want to do is they want to benefit him. So he should use up all of his merit for the world to come in this world. So I helped them to ruin him. They said, I give him his pleasure in this world. How come when you saw the wedding celebration, you cried? Amalei said to him, boy, because the man's going to die within 30 days, or by a mintal and the girl's going to be stuck waiting, and she dies childless. He dies childless, and he has a brother who was just born, and she has to wait 13 years before she can be married, either him or somebody else, either get chalitza or even more married. My time to say, he cried. I cried for the man and for the woman. You notice that he cried for the man and the woman. No, he does his job. If you look, all the creatures in the world want to serve God. If you look in the Aruch HaShulchan, very interesting. In the beginning of the Aruch HaShulchan, he has a lengthy introduction, and one of the things he says is that the Yetzer Hara, the force that God made to make us to kill us, the force that God made to make us do the wrong thing and to hurt us, that force doesn't want us to do the wrong thing. That force wants us desperately to do the right thing, but his job is to kill us, and he does. His job. Since he's faithful to God, he's all day and all night he's trying to make us do the wrong thing. But personally, he wants us to do the right thing. So I know, they say, hey, it's just business, it's nothing personal. This is really the truth. It's just business. He personally, he says the Yitzhar himself personally wants us to do the right thing and not the wrong thing. But it's his job. God created him to do it, and he does his job and serves God. But you see, Ashmedai also, he follows the will of heaven. My time at Kishmasa, who God how come when you saw that guy telling the shoemaker, make me shoes in the last 7 years, why did you laugh? Amalei said, "Who should yomi? That guy's doesn't have 7 days left to live. Okay, maybe we're gonna die tomorrow." He said, he says, there's no guy that 7 years old is gonna live 7 days. He says, Masadi the Shavshtini boy, he wants shoes for 7 years. My time is who kasba, how come you saw the sorcerer doing sorcery? How come you laugh? Amalei said, because this sorcerer who's supposed to understand all the hidden things in the world, he was sitting top of a hidden treasure. He's sitting on top of a king's treasure, a treasure room. He doesn't know what's under him. Likso my dika, let him do sorcery. Let him. He's an idiot. He's supposed to do a big seer of hidden things. Let him see what's right under. He has a fortune in front of him. Okay, now, so what happened? Back to the ranch. Shlomo Melech kept Ashmedai, the king of the demons, with him until the Beis Hamikdash was built. One time Shlomo was alone with Ashmedai by himself. Shlomo said to Ashmedai, see what's over Shlomo. It talks about in the pasuk. It really is saying that the lofty things belong to Hashem. And they say, what does that mean? Ketobos, like the lofty ones, those are the ministering angels. Re'aim, also a lofty thing, that's the demons. So you see that Hashem has both the loftiest angels and the demons, they serve him. He says, why are you more valuable to God than us, than humans? What's so good about you that God uses you to bring you so close to serve him more than us? So I said to him, I said, listen, I'll show you, I'll be happy. You have to take this chain off of me and give me the ring with God's name in it. They're wearing, get here, remove all the things that control me, and I'll show you. Okay, now it's shocking. And I'll show you what's so good about me. Now it's shockingly, Shlomo Melech took it off. Now, yeah, it's shocking. Here's Shlomo, the smartest guy in the world. Who would fall for that trick? So it's hard to understand. But Pashtus, I believe this. And you'll see how other people explain. But Pashtus like this. He saw that like I told you, that Ashmedai, as much as his job is to be a damaging force, but he's still a servant of God. At this point, where it's a question of revealing the Torah, I think he didn't think that he'd get in trouble. That's what I think. And the answer is that Ashmedai apparently was able to do the job both at once. He got fooled, but he thought he'd be safe. That's what I think. But okay, so what happened? So he took the chain off. And he gave him his ring. He took away all the protection. And what happened? Immediately, Bali, Ashmedai. It's a question of whether he swallowed the ring or whether he swallowed Shlomo Melech himself.
Because he spits him out.
And then what he did is he put one wing on the heavens and one wing on the earth, and he shot him out. He shot about 400 parses far away.
Which means to Chutz.
He shot that at that moment. That's what he referred to that later in the pasuk. He said, what good is it a man? All the work he does, all the work a man does. He says, this is all I had left from everything I did. My was that. What's this? Okay, Rabbi Shmuel, they argued. All he had left from everything was his stick. All he had left was his cloak or his garment. Okay. Shlomo was now, he was thrown far away from the kingdom. He was begging from door to door. And everybody got our man. He quotes the pasuk. I'm Koheles. I was the king of Yisrael, of Israel and Jerusalem. He got to the Sanhedrin. The rabbi said, something's wrong over here. Usually when a person's crazy, he goes from one fantasy to the next. One day he's a Martian, one day he's Napoleon, one day he's this. This guy is stuck on one thing. Crazy people don't do that. He's so consistent. He's so consistently adamant that he's Shlomo Melech. You gotta watch out. One year, Yerushalayim, unfortunately, they have a thing called the Jerusalem syndrome. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of crazy people are attracted to Yerushalayim. Well, I was there for all my life, most of my life. You know, every Monday and Thursday, another person with you got messiahs and people, carpenters. Every 2 minutes there's another. Every Monday and Thursday, another messiah, another this, everything. No. One day, my wife is in the street in Yerushalayim, and a woman comes up to her. She says, "I'd like to speak with you." My wife says, "Okay." She says, "But look, I really need you to have an open mind." My wife said, okay. She said, no, you really have to have an open mind. My wife said, okay. She said, no, you really gonna need an open mind. I want to talk to you. I said, okay, I'll really have an open mind. She said, okay, what is it? She said, look, I'm David Melech. I'm King David.
She is the
So, yeah,
the woman.
she says, I'm David Melech. My wife looks, she says, I told you said you're gonna have an open mind. She says. In any case, here the point is though that usually the crazy person doesn't stick on one fantasy alone. Since that's the only fantasy they told him, they suspected that maybe he's telling the truth. Okay, my high. Okay, what's going on? So I'm really the Benayo said, let's see, maybe something's fishy. Maybe Shlomo is not really in the palace. Okay, so he said to Benayo, has the king requested your presence? He says. Amalullah said, no, he hasn't. He sent to all the different queens that he had, all the different wives of Shlomo. Has the king visited with you? He said, yes, he's come to us. But okay, Shoklu, so okay, but he said, you're sure? Shlomo, he said, check out his feet. Demons have feet like chickens, like chicken feet, not like human feet. They said we can't check out his feet. He shows up in socks. He wears socks. And also, he really does weird things. He tries to live with us when we have our period. We're not allowed to live with him. And he also tried to live with his mother, Bathsheba. This is Ashua. So they brought Shlomo. They realized something. Realized that what there's an imposter in the palace. So what did they do? Mm-hmm. So they gave Shlomo Melech. They gave him a chain. They gave him again a chain with Hashem's name on it, and they shame, okay, with Hashem's name on it. So now, okay, and they also gave him the ring, okay. Now then he went in. I also, when Shlomo comes in, Chazi Parach, so Shmadai saw him and he ran away. Nevertheless, Shlomo remained all of his life. Shlomo ran away, but Shlomo for the rest of his life was always afraid of him. I know the and that's what it says. Shlomo, we said Shlomo is bad. Shishim Gebarim Savilam Gebar Yisrael. There are 60 strong men from the strong men of Israel around. All of them holding swords and are trained in war. Each man with a sword at his thigh. The pachad, okay, because of fear of night, because Shlomo was afraid of Ashmadai. Rabbi Shmuel, okay, Chanamar Melech Vehedya. One said that once Shlomo lost the kingdom, he never got back to be a king. He was a king and then he was a commoner, he never got back. Chanamar Melech Vehedya. He said no, he's a king, he was a commoner, but he got back to be the king. And I think that's a good stopping place. Tomorrow we have more of the cures. We'll pick up there. Call it off. Have a wonderful day.
It's early. Why not go a little more?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot of material. You're right, but I should stop at a stopping point. After studies a new back to food, then we'll make it tomorrow. But thank you. I'm glad you're interested. But we'll go. We'll be fine. I think it's just chopping off the pieces.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
Wonderful day.
Yeah.
We're on 68, not 69, right?
We're on
We're at
68P. Yeah, 68P. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About the
7 was 8 lines.
Yeah, 7 lines.
Right. You had indicated 69 earlier.
I made a mistake.
You're allowed. You're allowed.
Thank you.
Stop in the right place or not?
No, we stopped at the right place. We stopped at the right place. I one time, there was a rabbi, Rabbi Tucker. Tucker he's a great guy. I used to learn. Tucker was a big Talmid Chacham, and when I was a kid, me and my brother used to learn. We used to learn at the table next to him. So it was so periodically he would tell us things. Rabbi Tucker, the tremendous Talmid Chacham.
He also invented an automobile.
Yeah. So he first he said he used to encourage us. He told us, listen. He said, if you want to be a Talmid Chacham, said come to the learning on time, and leave on time. So if you want to be outstanding, he said, come 15 minutes early and leave 15 minutes late. He said, in learning. In any case, he was a very smart guy, very funny also. So one day he came to give a shiur, and he apparently forgot his glasses. So he said to one of the guys, maybe let me hear, give me your glasses. So the guy gives him his glasses, and he moves them back and forth. Okay, he gets by. So the guy says, how'd you know they were going to work? He says, Ruach HaKodesh. He said, I have the divine spirit. He says to me. One time he's teaching. He was teaching in Yeridea. They learn laws of in Yeridea. They learn the laws of kitchen laws, of pots and pans, and all kinds of and salting meat. So there's a famous
Color.
question: if a monkey is it sufficient? If a monkey salts meat, is the meat kosher? Remember, salting meat is not like a mitzvah from the Torah. It's just a scientific thing that we do. We can't eat the blood. The rabbis happen to know scientifically that salt will draw the blood. There's no mitzvah to salt your meat. You just can't eat it. You can't eat the blood.
Broil it
Yeah,
instead.
yeah. But I'm saying that, but rabbis knew scientifically how it works. Therefore, there were arguments whether sugar does the same job. If you put sugar on fruits, when you make fruit salad, you notice if you put sugar, you get a gravy.
It's hydro.
Yeah, you get a gravy. Yeah. So there's also a question.
hydrophilic.
Sugar works. So another famous shiloh was, what if you get a monkey to salt the meat? Maybe what's the difference? Who cares? It's not a mitzvah, you understand? So maybe the monkey does the job. It's good enough. It's just what's in the monkey in the machine. No, they're discussing the shiloh, and one of the guys fell asleep in this year. The guy's dozing off. So sometimes if you're the teacher, you see a guy sleeping, so you ask him, you ask him the question to wake him up. So he says to the guy, he says, no. He says, you. He says, what? He says, monkey. He says, what? He says, monkey. He says, why are you looking at me for? He says. What's
There
that?
was also in Rabbi Silverstein's
Yeah.
Sefer of Harevna,
Thanks, Bob.
a person who was paraplegic